Moonshiners is about the alcohol bootlegging business. How legitimate is it in the world of television? Few reality shows have captured the gritty, law-defying spirit of rural America quite like Moonshiners. Premiering on the Discovery Channel in 2011, the show follows a group of individuals in Appalachia as they illegally produce and distribute moonshine, a potent and unregulated form of alcohol. With its high-stakes operations and thrilling illegal activities, Moonshiners has built a loyal fan base. But behind the captivating scenes of bootleggers crafting their secret recipes and evading law enforcement, one must ask, how legitimate is the moonshining business? Does it really reflect the dangers and complexities of the bootlegging world, or is it just another TV spectacle? The legacy of moonshine. A glimpse into history. To understand the legitimacy of modern-day moonshiners, it's essential to first explore the history of moonshine itself. The term moonshine historically refers to any illicitly produced alcohol, often made in small, homemade stills, with a primary focus on whiskey and other spirits. The practice of moonshining dates back centuries, but it became particularly popular in the United States during the 18th and 19th centuries. The name moonshine originated from the fact that much of this alcohol was made under the cover of night, often in secluded areas far from prying eyes. The rise of moonshine in the U.S. can be traced to the Whiskey Rebellion of the 1790s, when the federal government imposed an excise tax on whiskey. In protest, farmers and distillers, especially in rural areas like the Appalachian Mountains, began producing untaxed alcohol in illegal stills. The government responded with raids and enforcement, but the practice persisted. In the 1920s, Prohibition exacerbated the demand for illegal alcohol, making moonshine a profitable venture for those willing to risk the law. While Prohibition ended in 1933, moonshining never truly went away. It remained a part of certain subcultures, especially in rural areas, where the tradition of homemade spirits continued. Even today, moonshine is still made illegally in parts of the United States, even though modern laws and regulations have made it increasingly difficult to operate outside of legitimate alcohol production. The legitimacy of moonshining today. Fast forward to the 21st century, where Moonshiners brings the age-old tradition of bootlegging into the mainstream. While the show's portrayal of illegal moonshining is undoubtedly entertaining, it raises the question of whether the practice is as legitimate as it appears. First, let's consider the legal aspects of moonshining. In the United States, it is illegal to distill alcohol without a federal license, regardless of whether the alcohol is intended for personal consumption or distribution. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, ATF, enforces these laws, and penalties for illegal moonshining can include hefty fines and imprisonment. This makes the act of moonshining inherently illegal under U.S. law. Yet, despite the legal risks, moonshining persists. Moonshiners chronicles the lives of individuals who produce their product in secret, often evading law enforcement and navigating a complex underground economy. The legitimacy of their business is complicated by the fact that their activities are unlawful and their operations exist outside of the regulated and taxed alcohol industry. However, this doesn't mean moonshiners are purely criminals. Many individuals who engage in moonshining do so out of tradition, cultural pride, or as a form of rebellion against government intervention. Moonshine production, especially in Appalachian regions, is often viewed as part of a heritage that connects communities to their ancestors. In this sense, moonshining holds a certain degree of legitimacy within specific subcultures that value self-sufficiency and independence over governmental control. Moreover, some of the individuals featured on Moonshiners have found ways to navigate the legalities of their businesses. For instance, some of the show's stars have transitioned into legitimate businesses by obtaining distillery licenses and producing legal moonshine products. This hybrid model, where the production process is originally illegal but later becomes regulated, is one example of how moonshiners can move toward legitimacy while still holding on to their craft. The risks of the moonshining business zone. Of the defining elements of the Moonshiners show is the constant risk of law enforcement intervention. Moonshiners typically face threats of raids, arrests, and the seizure of their equipment, all of which contribute to the dangerous nature of the business. Despite the allure of making money and producing a high-demand product, the criminal element of moonshining cannot be overstated. Distilling alcohol is a dangerous endeavor, not only because of the legal risks but also because of the physical dangers involved in the distillation process itself. The equipment used to create moonshine, such as stills and boilers, can be hazardous. There are risks of explosions, fires, and toxic fumes if the equipment is improperly constructed or handled. Even experienced moonshiners face the constant challenge of perfecting their craft without endangering their lives or the lives of others. Furthermore, moonshiners often find themselves in direct conflict with law enforcement. For decades, bootleggers have been chased down by authorities, who are tasked with preventing the illegal production and distribution of alcohol. Moonshiners portrays this cat-and-mouse game between the bootleggers and the law, with some of the show's stars engaging in dramatic standoffs with officers, hiding their stills in remote locations, and using sophisticated methods to evade detection. While this makes for thrilling television, it also highlights the dangers inherent in the moonshining business. The reality is that for every moonshiner who evades capture, there are many others who face serious legal consequences for their involvement in the trade. Is moonshining ever legitimate? The question of whether moonshining can ever be considered legitimate depends on one's perspective. From a legal standpoint, the answer is clear. No, moonshining is not legitimate. Producing alcohol without a license is illegal, and moonshiners are subject to the laws of the land, which dictate that alcohol production should be regulated and taxed. However, when viewed through the lens of culture and tradition, moonshining takes on a different meaning. Many Appalachian moonshiners see their craft as an art form passed down through generations. It's a way to maintain ties to the past, preserve a unique way of life, and assert their independence from government regulations. In these communities, moonshining is not necessarily viewed as a criminal enterprise, but as a vital part of their cultural identity. In recent years, the rise of legal craft distilleries has provided an avenue for former moonshiners to enter the legal alcohol industry. By obtaining licenses and adhering to federal and state regulations, many individuals who were once involved in illegal moonshining have transitioned to legitimate businesses. These craft distillers often draw on the techniques and recipes they learned from their moonshining days, using the same methods to produce high-quality spirits that are sold in stores and bars across the country. This blending of the old and the new, combining the outlaw spirit of moonshining with the regulatory framework of modern distilling, has led to a growing recognition of moonshining as a legitimate craft in certain circles. As the craft distilling industry continues to expand, some former moonshiners have even found themselves celebrated as pioneers in the world of artisanal spirits. Conclusion: the fine line between crime and craft. So, how legitimate is the moonshining business? In a legal sense, it is unequivocally illicit. However, in the context of tradition, culture, and the evolution of the alcohol industry, moonshining has a certain legitimacy. It represents a rich heritage tied to rebellion, self-sufficiency, and craft, as well as a complicated relationship with the state. As Moonshiners continues to entertain audiences with its portrayal of clandestine distilling operations, it underscores the tension between maintaining this age-old practice and navigating a modern regulatory environment. The moonshining business is one that straddles the line between criminality and craft, independence and regulation. For those involved, it remains a personal and often dangerous pursuit, but for many, it is also a symbol of resilience, heritage, and the desire to preserve an age-old tradition. The show Moonshiners, airing on the Discovery Channel, has brought the underground world of alcohol bootlegging into mainstream living rooms across the globe. The show chronicles the lives of a select group of individuals who produce illegal moonshine in the remote Appalachian regions of the United States. With its high-stakes drama, secrecy, and thrilling illegal operations, Moonshiners quickly became a fan favorite. But while the show might be entertaining, it begs a central question. How legitimate is the moonshining business today? Is it still a crime, or has it evolved into something more legitimate over time? In order to answer this, we need to take a deeper look at the history, risks, and modern context of moonshining and bootlegging. The roots of moonshining, a historical perspective to understand the legitimacy of moonshining. It's important to explore its origins and historical context. The term moonshine is often used to describe homemade or illicitly produced alcohol, typically whiskey, that is made in clandestine stills. The practice of distilling alcohol illegally dates back centuries, but it reached new heights